Okay. Now, Diamantina's husband, Bonifacio, he took in the boy that I mentioned, Cristiano. I think is how you say his name, Cristiano. And now Bonifacio wants to return the boy to his native land. But of course, Cristiano has been with the main character, Diamantina, and they love each other. They've been together for years now. The boy has friends. He has a friend, Tiago, and of course, he's lived there now for years. He knows people, and he doesn't want to leave. But Bonifacio has problems. You have to read it for her to understand his problems. He's got a couple things that have happened in his life that has caused him some problems. Now, the bad man's wife, who I haven't said his name, her name is Donna. It's Beatriz, I think. Beatriz. It's B-E-A-T-R-I-Z. Beatriz. And her and the main character, Diamantina, they get along pretty well. There's other characters in the book. There's Father Dachargos. There's a boat. It's called Dog Star. There's also a sister, Amelia, who has a sad story. And her family didn't care for the man she fell in love with. But there's a little bit more, of course, to the story than that. Now it's R-O-O-I. Roy? Rue? R-O-O-I. Anyways, that's another character in the story. And she does have a goat, and its name is Benedita. And there's the lady, I won't say who it is. She's very important in the beginning of the story, and her name is Shada. S-H-A-D-A, Shada. There's, I don't know, Raimundo, and there's a lady, Grace Sinha. Then there's Henry Duncan. He's on and off through the whole book. It's N-I-N-I, Nini. There's also an empire. There's the Kipling Empire, which comes into the story. And then there's Binta, who's a nice lady. And Luzia, L-U-Z-I-A, Luzia. And actually, Luzia is Olivia's mom. Now, the main character, Diamantina, is married to Bonifacio. Bonifacio has the brother Espirito, and his wife's name is Olivia. But that's a whole another story there. So that's a few of the characters, and I'm going to be finishing up. Like I say, I'm on chapter 65, and which is 423 actually. Let's see, is there any little piece here? Let me see, I'll find something. Irma, he called over and over, and I opened my eyes. Sister, he was calling me sister. It was the first time he had spoken aloud in daylight hours. I hesitated, but then kept climbing. His voice grew louder and closer. Finally, I stopped again. I looked back at him and shook my head. No, go back, Cristiano, I called. But he wouldn't stop. And in moments he had caught me. His face was contorted, wet with tears. No, sister, he cried, his face against my waist, gripping my skirt. No, I put my arms around him. I have to go, Cristiano, and I can't take you. I can't, I said, crying as well. It's so far, and I don't have enough money for us both. And he lifted his face to me, and his look was so stricken, I dropped to my knees and held him. Don't go away, sister, he said. And his new little voice, high and sweet, was a knife in my heart. He buried his face against my neck. We stayed like that for a long time. Then I stood and wiped his face with the hem of my skirt. I took his hand and we walked back down the hill. By the time Bonifacio and Papa returned, I was in the kitchen making bread, and Cristiano sat on the stool watching me. My belongings were back in place, as was Bonificio's bag of coins. "You are better, daughter?" Papa asked, and I nodded. I continued kneading, my movements slow and strong as I thought about Raphael and his grandmother. Cristiano would surely be happier with them than here, in this house with a dying old man and a bitter former priest disappointed in himself and with the world. But I knew that Bonifacio would never agree to Raphael taking Cristiano once I was gone. I would have to try to work something else out for the boy. I had to. Here. She reminded me more and more of my mother in the way she lowered her head and looked up at me from under her little brows. I noticed that she sometimes abruptly stopped what she was doing and fixed her gaze on something I couldn't see. Did she have the gift of sight, as my mother had? She was mature and somehow solemn, although easily coaxed into a bubbly laugh. Even now I saw her fearlessness and spirit. I thought of her as only my child, through and through. And although I would never forget my old sins, they grew less troublesome as time passed. Apart from Bonifacio's strange behaviors, I could gaze at my daughter and think that the past was forever finished and held no threat. But the past is undeniable. It isn't like the unwritten future. The past may grow shadowy, but it never leaves. Summer arrived, and I was filled with anticipation about the coming harvest and my second season of work. One hot evening, Cristiano was in the stables, and I sat sewing in the light of the candle on the table. Candelaria was on the floor nearby, playing with her rag dollies. Bonifacio came from his bedroom and stood in front of me. I looked up at him, the needle poised above the cotton. Something in his expression gave me a whispering sense of approaching upheaval. "The sham of our marriage cannot continue," he said with no preamble. The needle was suddenly cold in my fingers in spite of the steamy air. "What do you mean?" "Marriage is a sacrament, a contract with God. In God's eyes we are joined forevermore, but the deception you brought a bastard child into our home. Every day it's burden difficult for me to bear." I glanced at Candelaria and tried to swallow, but I had no saliva. As if I had called her, she left her dollies and came to me. She put her hand on my knee, watching my face. Now, this is where he starts to say he is going to send the boy away. So, I'll leave it at that. There's two little bits. There's a couple little words I left out here and there, like the father's name of the girl. And because he actually is a pretty main character in the book, so I thought, you know what, I'm going to leave his name out of it. And because when you read the book, you find out. That's a little better. That's all the light I have. Devil on Her Tongue. More spoilers. I am on page 422. And I have to say, I made myself a note. And I have to say, unless the bad guy who fathered Diamantina's daughter. Diamantina's the main character. The daughter she has is named Candelaria. I think I did better in the last video. Candelaria. Now, unless Diamantia's husband's name is Bonifacio. So the bad guy who fathered Diamantina's daughter dies, and unless her husband Bonifacio dies, I really don't know what she's going to do or how she's going to get out of this. I'm not quite done yet, like I say. But a lot of times in books, the bad guy, he dies. And that's how they get out of it. And I need to take off these reading glasses. evening time. The lady in here is bad. Best I can do. Oh, hang on. Devil on her tongue. Spoiler. I'm walking on the treadmill, and I was thinking, I really wish when Diamantina got pregnant, that her husband's brother, Espirito, I think his name is, I really wish he would have broke in on them, because she actually yelled out no, and I wish that he would have walked in on him, and so he would have known.